Well, thank you very much, Janice, and it's a pleasure to be here today. For years under the previous government, Manitoba housing properties across our province were left to deteriorate. In fact, our government inherited $1 billion in deferred maintenance on the 13,000 affordable housing units that the province directly owns and manages through Manitoba Housing. Thousands of Manitoba families and seniors call these properties home, and our government believes that they deserve to live in safe, clean, and well-maintained housing. That's why I'm happy to announce that our government will be investing more than $31 million in repair, maintenance, and security upgrades for Manitoba housing properties in Winnipeg and throughout our province. This is an incredibly important investment for Manitobans who need affordable housing during these unprecedented public health times and represents $12.7 million more than budgeted last year. As a result, hundreds of tenants will have a welcoming, safer, and more secure place to call home. In fact, the investment will help us get over 800 vacant units ready for new tenants, including over 400 units right here in Winnipeg. It will also help us respond to the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, stimulating economic recovery and providing affordable housing to Manitobans who need it. Included in this investment is $29.6 million in renovations, repairs, and routine maintenance. This includes refreshing units and common spaces, life and safety improvements, replacing appliances, yard maintenance, structural repairs, and many other important projects. Here at 101 Marion, this work has included landscaping and parking lot improvements that will benefit over 200 low-income seniors who call this place home. Our government also believes that all Manitobans deserve to feel safe in their homes, which is why today's investment includes $2 million in security upgrades at 7 properties in Winnipeg, including 320 new security cameras and other improvements. These investments will provide greater security for Manitoba families, while at the same time protecting Manitoba housing properties from vandalism. Our government understands that these properties belong to the taxpayers of Manitoba and that all Manitobans deserve a safe and quality home. That is why we are committed to responsibly manage our Manitoba housing properties, helping to ensure that they remain good places to live for families and for seniors.
He's coming through the freaking walls.
Yeah, no, my mom is inside the house.
Come, Nova. He's strategically doing this. Come over here now. Like he's not smashing. He's got plans. They're going after the wires in the house. Lie down up here.
Apparently, according to
lie down.
I don't know. Yes. They have been multiple times, and they don't. Now there's a hole in our wall going all the way through.
Yeah, they cut the power. They cut the power.
According, my mom says they cut the power, but them?
There's parts of it. Yes, apparently. Both of them. There's 2 of them there.
Yeah, there's 2. In the other building, and
just relax. Sit nice. Sit nice. Stay here. Don't bark. Sit down. Sit the fuck down. Sit. Sit.
In the real estate market. So that is one of the things at play that has to be addressed. But from a historical perspective, this really hot housing market isn't something new. This is something that's been going on for a long time in Canada now, including before the pandemic. Some of the immediate things that government could be doing right now, as far as we're concerned, I mean, one of the things we've heard from nonprofit groups that want to build affordable housing and indeed social housing is that they just can't compete with these investors that have a bunch of cash on hand because their current model is to, see land or buildings that are available and then they have to chase the cash. And that process takes too long. So government could set up a fund that would enable, nonprofits with good track records on building affordable and social housing to be able to snap up land and buildings when they become available. And the other thing that they might consider doing, we've seen New Zealand do, is to say, once you have your primary residence, once you have your first property, when you go to the bank for a mortgage, you should be asked to put more down on each successive property, so that the initial down payment isn't the same.
Okay, that's one of the things that I would like to say, both to Mr. Poilievre, but to the Conservatives generally, is that I don't see the reason for this obsession about talking down the Canadian economy. Why turn away investment at such a critical point in Canadians' lives, and especially since we know that the economy is doing quite well. We had 4.5% growth last quarter. We've recovered all of the jobs lost during the pandemic, and
I don't want to get caught in the politics. I don't want to get caught in politics, but there is a fair point. Whatever's being done ain't working. The housing market's blowing up, and I guess the question is, how do Canadians trust that any of the solutions that you're proposing will actually bring it down?
Well, we put forward during the campaign in our platform a number of brand new measures that haven't been tested yet, and anti-flipping tax is one of them that I think will be extremely important going forward. I've mentioned already the importance of excluding foreign buyers from scooping up Canadian homes, and Canadians agree with that approach. Let us try those measures and let us move forward in a concrete way in order to attack the housing affordability crisis.
Mr. Poilievre, the Governor of the Bank of Canada has indicated the central bank will raise key interest rates this year. Will that be enough to cool down the market?
Well, we're in a very dangerous spot, Evan. When you inflate a balloon and then you try to pop the balloon, then you end up with a crisis. We saw that in 2008 in the United States. So that we don't know whether they will now be able to undo the damage they've done. Everything comes from somewhere and nothing comes from nowhere. Somehow, an extra $200 billion in annual home purchases flooded into the market in 2021. That's an 80% increase. Where did that money come from? Obviously, real dollars had to purchase those houses. Mr. Blakey is right. the very wealthy who can access the cash from the banking system were able to get it in record numbers, a 100% increase in mortgage lending to the investor class in a single year, according to the Bank of Canada. That money has inflated a massive bubble. Now the question is, how
but most experts say it's not a bubble. Just to be fair,
I don't know which experts you're talking.
CMHC said it's not a bubble. Well, I did talk to David Dodge, the former Bank of Canada governor. Right. He didn't say there was a bubble.
Evan,
yes?
You're going to want to expunge those comments from the record when this bubble bursts, because we are in serious trouble right now. Our house prices have outstripped incomes at a dramatic pace that is unrivaled by any other country in the world or by any other time in our history. And if we do not moderate these prices quickly and get our incomes back up to the level of growth in our house prices, this bubble is going to burst. And anybody who said today that it wasn't a bubble will have as much egg on their face as the people who told us we'd have no inflation.
If I might just jump in here, Evan, I think...
I'm heavy here, so Mr. Blakey, if you keep it short, I'll give you the last word real quick.
Sure. So, I mean, what I would say really quickly is that, one of the other things that we have to address here is that part of the reason that there's a surplus of investment capital that's being funneled into the real estate market too has to do with, the PBO put out a report saying that 1% of the population now controls 25% of the wealth. They don't know what to do with it all. And that's partly a product of serious slashing of the corporate tax rate and other forms of taxation for the wealthiest Canadians over the last 25 or more years now. And that's part of what's also contributing to the capital that's inflating prices. And until we get a handle on that, there's going to be a very small amount of people with a lot of money not knowing what to do with it and wanting to multiply that money to keep up with the Joneses in the gated communities. And that's a real problem that has to be addressed as well.
Okay.
And should the social housing sector in Manitoba become, and how do we get there? Our panelists will discuss the core issues impacting nonprofit housing providers in the province, evolving relationships with government, new financial and funding models, and partnerships and collaboration. The moderating panel will include leaders from the nonprofit and social housing sector. That includes Rod Porter, who is the Acting Director of Portfolio Management with Manitoba Housing. The other panelists are there, Stefan Koivu, who's the Executive Director of the Community Housing Transformation Centre based in Montreal. Laurie Socha is the General Manager of SAM Management and the President of the Manitoba Nonprofit Housing Association. And Menno Peters is with MLP Housing Solutions Inc., and he's the past president and one of the founding members of the Manitoba Nonprofit Housing Association. Unfortunately, Paula Jones, who's the Housing Director of the Swan River Friendship Centre Housing Inc., was unable to join us today. Sarah Cooper, who's an assistant professor of city planning at the University of Manitoba, is moderating our panel. Thank you for joining us, Sarah. Sarah's research focus has been on community housing, in particular looking at the impact of the end of operating agreements in Manitoba. So she's very familiar with many of MANFA's members and the challenges we face as a sector. Thank you for joining us, Sarah, and I'll pass it on to you.
Great, thank you, Christina. Good morning, everyone. I'm looking forward to a great panel today and some good discussion this morning. So as Christina mentioned, today we're going to talk about 3 transformational issues for the community housing sector here in Manitoba, and they're all interrelated. So the first is new financial and funding models. As operating agreements are ending, the province has said that it will standardize its rent supplement agreements, and it'll make them portable and household-based rather than unit and organization-based. So any new funding for housing has been directed to capital funding. And there's an increased insistence that nonprofit housing organizations should access financial markets and loans rather than expecting grants. The second area is the evolving relationships with governments, and in particular with the province of Manitoba. Manitoba Housing has been directed to transform from a direct service provider to a funder and regulator, putting the nonprofit sector at the forefront of housing delivery in the province. At the same time, the National Housing Strategy continues funding for operating agreements with the aim that
Okay, so they're going to mention something right away that is related to the fact that we had to sign these lease agreements in 2021, I believe it was, 2020. It was probably 2019, something like that. And as a Manitoba Housing tenant, we were asked to sign lease agreements that were changed And those lease agreements were... Okay, so they were changed, subsidy notice agreement was changed to affordable housing rental program subsidy, and the program benefit calculated difference between the stated Manitoba housing market rent to the affordable rental rate. This is including heat credit, and this benefit is supported by public funds. Total monthly payable includes additional fees and applicable, and the tenant agrees to pay the total monthly payable by the first day of every month. The tenants must be immediately inform the landlord of changes which would result to their tenancy. Okay, so some of this is the same as it was, but instead of putting it on the bricks and mortar, they put it on the person. So rental program rent subsidy, the program benefit calculated as the differences between market rent is the value of the unit when it is unsubsidized, and they want it to be subsidized as it is when it is. Let's see. So they calculated that this house, mine here, would be worth $1,469, so $1,469. But under their subsidy, I would be paying $336. So that's the big thing that they said in the beginning. Now, as a unit of Manitoba housing, this Manitoba housing unit was estimated to cost $336 a month anyways. There was no outlandish cost on it. So it didn't really benefit me in any way or anybody else. But the threat of it going up, oh my goodness, but what it does do is it raises the property value. Now, doesn't it? And that looks pretty good for privatized situations now, don't it? Huh. I sent that video of my neighbor trying to kill us for 8 days to Heather Stevenson, who was talking about safety. Now, come. I wrote my building manager for 4 years. Lie down. The last two talking about escalations in my neighbor's attitude towards us, and about his theory that I had his children locked in my basement, and about his drug use, and about his abusiveness towards his partner, and about the police, and about all kinds of things. In fact, this video was sent to numerous offices, government places. I wonder why I was never answered, and why my safety wasn't of the utmost importance during all of this time, when it seems to be the first concern of Miss Heather Stevenson. I wrote her directly. I talked about my situation. I talked about how I was being treated. I talked about my building manager. I talked about how assistance was affected. I talked about my desperation, my fear, all of these things, my mental health, my physical health, my situation in total. I wasn't even really answered properly. I was told, I think, something like, this isn't the office or something like that. I don't know. Something silly.
Just let
For 8 days, we were basically held captive. This is after evictions. This is after mouse infestations, because this neighbor as well too wouldn't let anyone in to fix the mice problem, which he actually made happen because he dug holes in the back of the foundation, which obviously made a place for the mice to get in. Aside from that, police weren't listening to me, and I've been kicked off all my benefits, and basically, actually, not even basically, totally cut off at the knees. I'm living on $413 a month. I'm a disabled person. I'm being treated like a freaking worse than a criminal, than an inmate. because at least an inmate is housed and taken care of to some degree. I've worked much of the majority of my life, hard, I might add, and for others, I might add, in capacities that many people would not even withstand. But I did it gladly. And I left my employment because I had to, because my physical health did not allow me to continue. I have been belittled, bullied, bombarded, my home entered. You have no idea the abuse and the bullshit I have put up with. I'm starting to figure out and put together piece by piece that there's definitely some vested interest here. I don't know how far it stems, and I don't know exactly what the financial gain would be for this man. Or perhaps it's a career gain. I don't know. But I think as a community we should really try and find out, because there are hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of people that I'm sure that this will affect. And the problem is, most of the time, these people won't fight back. They won't put it together. I'm not very intelligent when it comes to all this stuff. It's taken me a long time to figure any of this out. And I don't even know if I'm going down the right path, but I do know they're going to blame COVID. And I do know that they're going to put all these things in play. And I'm telling you something, there's been stuff going on way before COVID, okay, like 2017. There's been things brewing and starting, and all kinds of reasons that I've observed. Some of them will make sense to you, some of them won't, whatever. But I need you to listen. I need you to hear what I'm saying. I need somebody to figure this out with me. Please help me. Please.
And there's an increased insistence that nonprofit housing organizations should access financial markets and loans rather than expecting grants.
That releases these Manitoba
the second
housing
area is the evolving relationships with governments, and in particular with the province of Manitoba. Manitoba Housing has been directed to transform from a direct service provider to a funder and regulator, putting the nonprofit sector at the forefront of housing delivery in the province. At the same time, the National Housing Strategy continues funding for operating agreements with the aim of creating more sustainable housing, which we understand means for them a more business-oriented and self-reliant sector.
A more business-oriented.
And third, because of these changing relationships and new financial expectations, independent nonprofit organizations will need to form increased partnerships and collaborate as a sector. So to meet these new realities, we have to share resources, we have to share services so that we can benefit from the diversity, skills, capacity, and scale of the sector.
In World War, without the active involvement of CMHC, the vast majority of Canadians who currently own their house wouldn't be house owner. So it is the fact of state intervention that made the market as it is, as we know it today. The bank would just not provide first-time buyers the mortgage they need without the support of CMHC's insurance program, for example, and a flurry of other municipal, provincial, and federal programs do support home ownership through subsidies and tax break. We are talking here literally of state commitment that are in the vicinity of about $1 trillion. So we're talking $1,000 billion of commitment of the state currently today in Canada that support the private-owned, private-managed, profit-for sector in this country. That's $1,000 billion and tax break that reach at least $10 billion annually in favor of the private for-profit sector. So sadly, the one segment of the housing market that saw a decrease of collective support from the late 90s until now is the social and community housing sector alone. So part of the transformation that when we're being told, you got to learn to be self-reliant, well, that lesson we took a long time ago already. What we are dealing with is how do we manage to get back, actually, I believe, some sort of support that is coherent and policy made with the rest of what's happening in the market. And I'm not saying the market of community housing sector, I'm saying the market altogether. So my hope and ambition are that thanks to the right combination of good public policies and a proactive, efficient, and audacious community housing sector, we reverse the trend and make sure everyone living on these pieces of land has access to proper dwelling at a reasonable price. In practice, I believe we, the social and community housing sector, should ultimately occupy about 20% of the housing market if we want to be able to provide proper housing for the whole population. This number might seem high, But let's remember that we were at 7% in 95, and that many industrialized countries, including wealthy places such as Netherlands, Austria, and Germany, are close and sometimes even beyond the 20% level. So it is possible. It's not like some kind of dream. I would even argue those places are actually wealthy in part because of the aggressive community and social housing policies that have been in place there for the last 100 years. So that gives us an idea of where I think we should be and what we should be aiming for. Something that is better structure, that leave a lot of initiative for the sector as the community housing provider, relying on their capacity and their strength, but with a global policies at government level that are enabling, not that are killing us like they've been doing for most of the last 25 years. So in short, that's my take at that point.
Great, thank you, Stéphane. Next, let's hear from Lori, vulnerable to the illness, including those who are at risk of homelessness. And there's renewed hope in some circles that there will be a greater appreciation for housing, for some new resources to support housing. So my first question is for Stéphane. What would you like to see in an economic stimulus package related to housing? And how do you think we can work as a sector to get something substantial within that package?
Well, thank you. That's quite an accurate and pinpoint question to based on current actuality. So I think the first point to remember is that housing is a key to so many social and health issues, and that has been confirmed once more during the pandemic in a spectacular way. I mean, in fact, one cannot challenge the reality that the main action taken to fight the pandemic was actually housing. It was not happening in hospital, it was not happening in treatment center, it was happening in houses. It's a spectacular demonstration of the social role of housing and how it deserves more attention and way more mature and sophisticated intervention, both by government and community organizations. The single largest financial intervention, and one must remember that talking about stimulus package, that through that crisis, the single largest financial intervention of the federal government during the pandemic has been done in the housing sector. Very few people are aware of that in reality. It's not a secret, but it has not been widely reported back by the media. We're talking here of an intervention done by CMHC at the request of the federal government of buying back $150 billion. We're talking large number here, $150 billion of buying back a large share of the bank's mortgage portfolio that were dedicated to the private for-profit sector. So the risk of individual, I mean, that's quite a spectacular demonstration of the risk of individual home ownership is largely collectivized in this country via CMHC. In 2008, the recession in the US was quite an indicator of the magnitude of the risk I'm talking about here. Government backing of the collective backing of private ownership is a risk, and it's not for nothing that there's state intervention there. Now, what I would expect as a stimulus package is something that would help solving the problem of the housing crisis and improve the sustainability of the sector rather than trying to be back to the pre-pandemic era. Let's remember that was not a good situation. We had conferences before March this year complaining about homelessness and crisis in the housing sector. So I'm arguing here for a 4-point program that would have both short, medium, and long-term effect on the economy, but also on the social and environmental efficiency of the Canadian society as a whole. The whole thing could be valued to a similar $150 billion commitment scale that the special effort done by the collectivity for the benefit of private banks and property owner. So why not mirror the kind of scale and effort that was done for private ownership? So those 4 points are, one, I would title it, keep them housed. At the height of the pandemic, several hotels, motels, and empty commercial buildings were transformed into housing for homeless people, demonstrating the necessary infrastructure to host them were readily available. So I can't believe we are really planning to throw thousands of poor, sick, vulnerable people, individuals back on the streets.
Yeah.
Several municipalities are making the right move by acquiring those buildings and turning them into permanent housing. So this should be an immediate and generalized action. Anyway, these hotels and motels are not going to be viable business in the foreseeable future. By acquiring the buildings, we would be helping the homeless people and the owners, as well as keeping some market stability by preventing a sudden rush of building for sale on the market. The second part of the plan would be, let's keep the sharks away. So CMHCs and many other analysts are predicting a significant value drop of most of the housing stock in the next 18 months as a consequence of the pandemic economic slowdown. This will likely translate in an increase of building put on the market at higher sales price by owner of small and medium building portfolio that had too much leverage on their equity and will need to rebalance their books. Many REITs and other speculative funds are on the lookout to snatch these and valorize them by increasing the rent aggressively in the coming years. So we must prevent this scenario by immediately setting up a fund to allow and facilitate acquisition by not-for-profit entities acquisition by not-for-profit entities of those properties. So the third point of the plan should be, let's build it. Many governments across the country are pushing for rapid and large infrastructure programs to restart the economy. We think it's a good idea, but community housing should be first in line amongst any such package. Several arguments support this ask. Our project would be spread.
Something's going on, just look around. Fear is on the rise, and there's blood all over the ground. Let's all just blindfold the poor. We must remind them what's in store. We got them now, just break them down a little bit more. I said, hey, you feed the machine, bring them all back down to their knees. No time to waste, remind the slates, they ain't gonna make it out alive today. I said, hey, you poison the well, watch it all burn, take him straight to hell. He's got the whole world in his hands. It was nice to know you, we've all been damned, come on. Nothing's going on, no need to fear, and we're all in this together. And just to make it all clear, we want the same thing as you. This will all be over soon. Now here's a little pill, here's the truth. We're gonna we're all right. Hey, you feed the machine, bring them all back down to their knees. No time to waste, remind the slates, they ain't gonna make it out alive today. I said, hey, you poison the well, watch it all burn, take him straight to hell. He's got the whole world in his hands. It was nice to know you, we've all been damned, come on. We've all been damned, come on. Said, hey, you feed the machine, bring them all back down to their knees. No time to waste, remind the slates, they ain't gonna make it out alive today. I said, hey, you poison the well, watch it all burn, take him straight to hell. He's got the whole world in his hands. It was nice to know you, we've all been damned, come on. We've all been damned, come on. We've all been damned, come on.
Ain't got no money, baby, give me some money. Don't want you, honey, I can make my own. Well, now you keep your sugar, well, I'm plenty sweet. Well, give me some money or just leave me alone. Well, I've been taken to pieces, I've been sold off cheap, I've been spread out all over the southeast. Now in my travels I've found some to give. I'm all used up, I ain't playing, you know what I need. Oh, come on, baby, don't be cheap. Oh, give me some money, I ain't got no money. Don't want your honey, I can make my own. This sugar sweet, but I'm plenty sweet. Give me some money, or just leave me alone. Well, I ain't got nothing but what you see, girl. I'm only interested in one damn thing. So give it up, honey. I don't want everything. I just need enough to get to New Orleans. Oh, give me some money, baby. Ain't got no money. I don't want you, honey. I can make my own. You should be sweet, but I'm plenty sweet. Give me some money or just leave me alone. I say, give me some money, give me some money, give me some money, give me some money. Masters of war, built to destroy. You play with my world like it's your little toy. All the money you made will never buy back your soul.
Yeah. Hercules, nigga. You heard of me, nigga. I verbally murder these niggas. Name on a bitch, nigga. Live like some burst bees, nigga. Ain't talking about actual topics or dropping no actual knowledge. The purpose of these niggas. Ain't you worshiping these niggas, man. It's curtains for these niggas, man. I'm hurdling these niggas. Put a hurting on these niggas. Skirting on these niggas. Pick up a leaf and I roll up the purple is weed in them. Robert Ray Colas a negative 30-degree winter. The world is so cold that the po got a murder to eat dinner. The world is so cold, nigga, you can get murdered this eating dinner. That's to the world is as fat as some perfectly creased denim. Perfectly creased denim. Perfectly creased denim. Feel like the youth is lost and ain't no reaching them. By day I be teaching them. By night I'm a heathen. Chillin' with freaks in a ghetto with Retrians. Plus an Norwegian. Look like Elysium. Pull up outside wheels big as Elysium. Hitters like, hey, that's nice. I hit it was leasing them. I'm so many thoughts in my head. My fucking cerebrum numb. The world is a stage. America steady policing them. Niggas don't want the facts, just the convenient ones.
All the money you made will never buy back your soul.
Buy your soul back, buy your soul back. I expose facts, so my phone's tapped. Hollywood turned you out, you climbing a broke back. On my coattail, bitch, get my coat back. Niggas behave the same as how these souls act. Like a high school kids back when I was smoke black. So I light up the whole pack, stinging up the whole class. Had to find my own lane, had to find my own path. Crisis, I see ISIS, slightly blind from these devices. Might be biased, Michael Myers. What you want, I'm 10 flows higher. Ha, 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 ha. Like a Velveeta block, stacking my cheese on top, 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 top. I put my team on top, bitches that scheme and plot, whipping the meanest drop, yeah, yeah, yeah. Look at my life, how was it perfect? All the hell I survived, yeah, I deserve it. So I'm shitting on niggas with twice the serving. All the thoughts in my head are quite disturbing. Same dude in the booth that I am in person. So whenever I die with purpose, motherfucker.
Made don't ever buy back your soul.
Yeah, yeah, I define the limits, penmanship is wicked. I'm my only master and my own apprentice. How do I present this? Trying to find a sentence. Guess to some extent I feel the end is nearing. Clairvoyant vision, cold as cryogenics. Knowledge that's forbidden, knowledge in my lyrics. I've been in the kitchen, all the points I'm hitting, I'm just too direct. No such thing as hitting. Kicking shit, now quit your bitching. Now cut the shit, let's get to business. I try to show what's sitting, try to paint the picture. Guess you just ain't photogenic. Get offended, make you see the veil, then I lift it. Pen in hell, it's a lengthy visit. Here's a breath of fresh air, it's been a minute. Hey, how to make a murderer? Better yet, how to make a terrorist? Better yet, how to start a civil war? Better yet, how to tax Americans? Yeah, yeah, step by step by step by step. Get more in depth, don't panic.
All the money you made
Don't panic.
don't ever buy back your
Follow the
soul.
rabbit. Bams. Not a human, not afraid. I will not comply. I I will not obey. See, the plan is to depopulate, but the body can overcome anything. Fuck what the doctor say. Fans shaking me like Bobby, wake up. Chip on my shoulder, I was holding a grudge. I wanted to be loved more than I wanted to love, but hey, what can I say? Fame's a hell of a drug. Born a slave to a tyrant. It's gonna take more than just petitions and riots. Are we headed for a future of being indebted to credit? Hoping the next leader elected will trump the one we beheaded? The words the wealthiest rappers will never utter. Them checks they throw at a nigga's a motherfucker. Seems like the future was brighter when I was younger. Seems like the future was brighter when I was younger. I'm torn between performing and rewriting the norm. Am I born to transform or just to die and move on? Be the light that people mourn while reciting all my songs. To the battle I am sworn, sword, dog, armor worn, beaten down to the point for being different. You question old tradition, they just say you superstitious. Like a snake that eats its own tail. The economic system, public schools the babysitter, healthcare's the modern day Adolf Hitler. Fact check. Ever since the internet, molestation multiplied by 1,000,000%. Your aunts and uncles, nieces and nephews all online with the shit. History shows for speaking up, my whole life is at risk. Yeah, I'm cocky, kamikaze, who gon' stop me? Anunnaki, Illuminati, neo-Nazis, they do me how they do Cosby. When you winning, they gon' love you till you lose like Ronda Rousey. Every revolutionary, they execute them proudly. It go JFK, no, MLK, no. Since Lenin got smoke, it's clear they don't want us to have hope. They tore down our houses, replaced it with dope, and say that it's our fault. Fuck. So you wanted to fight, so you wanna be brave, so you found the light and you've seen the truth and you feel betrayed. Well, it comes with cost, a price too large, as if we're really just born to die. I'd rather not have been born. Stay in school, they said. Use your tools, they said. But being on TV looks pretty cool, I said. That's true, I said. Must I remind myself? These corporations ain't your friends, you should have signed yourself. They, who are they? They are us, we are they. The pyramids start at the top, we just mimic and behave the same way. Babylon brainwaves, human incarcerations, the modern day slave trade. Cost of college, cost of living, so high you can't maintain. All you can do is sell pills, drink tea, and waste train. Struggle to make mortgage and re-up by payday. And the wealthiest families split it up 8 ways, okay. So you wanna be brave, so you found the light and you've seen the truth and you feel betrayed. Well, it comes with cost, a price too large, as if we're really just born to die. I'd rather not have been born at all.
Selfishly, I pray to keep you here with me.
Now, this woman, or man, I don't even know, government employee asking me to go to a public building, I would imagine via public transportation, which I didn't have money for anyway. With no patience, no tolerance, no reserve, no listening to anything I said, not one word, obviously, because when she wrote me back, she said, "Do you have a phone number I can reach?" She knew damn well, or he knew damn well, that I do not have a phone. That's a part of the problem. And people without money to access things, when you live literally dollar to dollar to dollar, when it is removed for a month prior to this situation, when it got really dire, because I thought I had solved it, I thought I resolved it, I did what they asked me to do. And then it was like, jump through these hoops, and I got really sick during that time. Like right around the time they asked me, and I was like really sick, obviously, you couldn't see it. I described all my symptoms, I described everything, I told them I was positive. They didn't care. Something is going on. You are experiencing it. Help. Message. Get a hold. Something. My Facebook, Sherry Cat. Leave a comment. There has to be some connection. Somebody else must be experiencing what I'm going through, because I cannot be the only one. If you are going through this, I'm so sorry. This New Year's Day, I lost literally everything except this house. And that's going. They're going to take that out from underneath us all. I can't let that happen. I won't let it happen. Enough is freaking enough. After all the things I've been through, and I'm going to give up on this shit. Forget it. If you understand me, please understand me. I was devastated. You got nobody's like me. They don't get it, because you don't even get it, because it's hard to understand.
Away.
night, or today, I should say, to a podcast, or not even a podcast, it was a service announcement regarding COVID and how the really big problem as to why the ERs are full. And I'm going to say, nope, I don't